Hi, everyone. Welcome to Creating and Presenting Professional Research Poster. I'm Rachel Jones, and I'm presenting today with Dr. Gridley and Claudia Mares. Today, we'd like you to become familiar with the required poster sections, understand how to make your poster visually appealing, discover what not to include in your poster, and provide you with some resources for a professional poster delivery. What's the purpose of a research poster? You can think of it as a hybrid. A research poster combines a presentation and a paper. It should be visually appealing, representing the data and the most relevant findings, simple and tell a clear story, have a consistent format, and it should emphasize the research questions and results. A research poster should be able to stand alone or be combined with an oral presentation. And now Dr. Gridley is going to share with you what to include on your research poster.
Thank you, Rachel. So for a research poster, typically we can use some templates, which will be typically delineated or outlined based on submission guidelines for the meeting that you'll be attending. Some meetings will actually require you to utilize the same text from the original submission, including sometimes requiring the use of the abstract within the poster itself. But obviously, you'll need to follow the submission guidelines for the meeting. And different types of posters may necessitate different types of templates. So for example, if you're doing a scientific review or a case presentation, you may have slightly different section titles. For this presentation, we're going to focus on something called an IMRAD technique, where you use specific titles based on the scientific review for a clinical study or trial. And just so everyone's aware, our Creighton partners have access to Creighton templates for this specific use. So here we have an example of a Creighton template utilizing the IMRAD format, and IMRAD stands for I, introduction, M, methods, R, results, A, and then D, discussion. And you can see each one of those represented on the template here within this image. And so for this presentation, I'm going to review the sections that are typical for a scientific study utilizing this IMRAD technique or format. So starting with the header will be obviously at the very top of your poster, and will include a title. The title should be relatively short, meaningful, and eye-catching. Definitely should be no longer than 2 lines. This needs to be a very short, succinct, but catchy title to reel in passersby that are at the poster presentation. Try to avoid jargon, try to avoid acronyms in a title. And again, the shorter and more eye-catching, the better. You'll also include in the header the author's names and credentials. And then finally, the institutional logos. And so there actually is a link here for Creighton approved logos. Please only use the Creighton approved marketing logos if you're going to do this. Otherwise, we do have these templates available for you that have actually approved logos at the top. And the introduction, which is also called background in many different types of meetings. So an introduction to background, again, words matter here. Try to keep it less than 200 words and be succinct. In the first 1 to 2 sentences, try to get the viewer interested in the issue or question that drove you to take up the project to begin with. So what is your research question? Couple of sentences to outline that. Place your issue in the context of published primary literature and pitch kind of an interesting or novel hypothesis that you've come up with. And again, fewer than 200 words would be great. Next is the methods section. So this briefly describes your research methods and any equipment or software that you may have used to perform your research. This may include flowcharts, photographs, or drawings that describe your design. And you can briefly mention the statistical analyses that were used and how they allowed you to address your hypothesis. As a reminder, again, 200 words or less on this section. Keep it succinct, but describe actually the strategy you use to perform your research. Next will be the results section. So the results section is what did you do with the information or data once you collected it following the methods you described in the prior step. So this section frequently has tables, charts, and figures. I strongly recommend that you utilize figures over tables because they're much more eye-catching and they deliver the message quicker to the reviewer or reader of the poster. Try to provide figures or tables that they could stand on their own without having to go through the entire poster to understand exactly what they're trying to convey. And obviously in this section, again, 200 words or fewer would be optimal. Finally, here, the discussion and conclusions section. Again, some meetings call this the discussion, some call it conclusion, some even break it up a little bit. So just you're aware, though, many will group these together. And this is your opportunity to summarize what your results mean. So briefly summarize your major results from the prior section and then quickly state whether your hypothesis was supported. And then many include, and I definitely try to include this personally, what are next potential steps based on what you've discovered? What are future research opportunities based on your current research? References, cite only the most pertinent articles. You don't need 20 different references, so fewer references the better. And cite the pertinent articles or references, and then definitely select a document format that is consistent. Many meetings will actually outline exactly the type of documentation format that's required for their posters. Acknowledgements are extremely important, I think. So this is your time that you can actually thank those individuals that have made contributions to your project but weren't necessarily able to be authors or didn't spend much time with the project. So this would potentially include anyone that assisted in the project with a kind of a minor contribution. So thank research subjects, acknowledge funding sources. So this is going to be also an area where you will actually include your disclosures for conflicts of interest as well. So that was a very quick and general overview of each section and a typical poster for a scientific study. Next, Claudia Maris, a member of our Creighton Academic Success Consultant team, will provide additional information on what makes posters appealing and what makes posters potentially appalling as well. So Claudia, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Gridley. Yes, that's absolutely right. There are some posters that are going to be absolutely appalling, but when it comes to visual appeal, all your important relevant information should be readable from about 10 feet away, right? So general rule of thumb, font sizes for the body of your posters should be about 24 points. Headings can be right around 36 points, and the title should be at least 50 or plus points. As Dr. Gridley mentioned before, your title is a key element to draw in your audience. So it should be short, it should attract your readers. So definitely pay special attention to that and curate a title that will be interesting and draw the reader towards your poster. Word count should be right around 300 to 800 words. Make sure that all your text is clear and concise and to the point. Organization, you can use bullets, numbering, and headlines to organize that content and make it easier to read for your reader. When you're using graphics, colors, and fonts, again, this can be a key element to draw in readers, but you want to make sure that you're using it in an effective manner. So when using maps, charts, or graphs, make sure that you are including labels, captions to describe the data that you're presenting. Make sure that they are also high quality resolution. And your graphics, again, should engage your reader and reinforce your content rather than distract from your poster. Regarding font types, stick to sans serif fonts so that they're easier to read. and then make sure that you're consistent and with your layout, right? Making sure that you stick to one font and don't have multiple sizes or fonts and things like that. And then of course, making sure that you are using white space intentionally. You don't want your poster to seem cluttered. So of course, including a little bit of that white space breaks in between is definitely going to be a good effective use as well. If we go on to the next slide here, Dr. Gridley, we can see an example of a visually appealing poster from one of our own medical students, right? So they have captions here. They have some data graphics that have been intentionally used and provide reinforcement of the content, right? We've got the title up at the top, as well as the logo of the university. And then we've got a nice, easy flow, right? So the reader is able to read from left to right, go through all the different images, the data, and be able to, you know, easily flow and take a look at this, the poster. So if we look at the next one. Okay, so this one is a pretty boring poster, right? You don't have any images. It's all just text. And it really doesn't seem very appealing. I wouldn't be drawn to this as an audience member. So this one, you want to make sure that, of course, you know, it has consistency in font sizes. It's very small, but again, you want to make sure that you're including at least some graphics. It has a lot of white space, but you want to make sure that you have very interesting title and maybe some graphics to kind of deliver your message as well. And then if we look at the next one, yep, so we have lots of images here. We have a really blown up image of fireworks. Not sure if it really, you know, coincides with the content of the poster. We've got just everything overlapping, not really structured, very little white space and very little content. So this is, you know, again, another example of a very appalling post that I probably would not stick around to read. I wouldn't even know what I'm reading, right? So if we go on to the next slide here, just want to reiterate things not to include. So of course, you don't want to include all the data, right? You want to make sure that it's easy for the reader to just follow along, right? All the pertinent data using charts, graphics effectively. You don't want to include your full contact information, right? Just name and your title is fine, along with whoever you're affiliated with. And then of course, too many photographs. Can't stress this enough, right? So just a little goes a long way. Want to make sure that your photographs reinforce your content rather than distract the reader. And then of course, making sure to omit any sort of sensitive or confidential information is going to be really important, okay? And then we'll move on to Rachel Jones. We'll be talking about professionalism.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Gridley and Claudia. Now you know how to create a wonderful poster. Your delivery is equally important. So we shared all of these things in our presentation on January 25th about professionalism. Really focus in on dressing for success and practice, practice, practice. But beyond that, know who your audience is. What are you trying to communicate? What's the main idea? What is the relevant information you want to convey about your poster? And then last, what questions might you anticipate that your audience will ask? We do have a recorded demonstration from Rockstar M4 student Patricia Lee, who is applying to radiology, and I will encourage you to watch that. We have sent the link as well, and it's a 6-minute summary of that great poster that Claudia just shared with you. Here are resources, and take a look at those at your leisure. Hopefully they'll be helpful. And we just want to thank all of you for attending and watching the presentation. Here's our contact information, and good luck to you in your poster presentations. Thank you.